Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Tara Chadwick, and I am so happy to be introducing you to our guest today. We have a very special Earth Day presentation highlighting our current changing exhibition at History Fort Lauderdale, which is called Shimmering Waters. I am going to go ahead and bring up our special guest, Lisette Morales, who is our featured photographer at History Fort Lauderdale right now. And she can introduce herself. Hi, Lisette.
Hi, how are you? I'm Lisette.
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody that is joining us on Earth Day to listen to stories of people and women of color. Beyond the Shimmering Waters is a collection of portraits that I created during the pandemic. I co-created with the people that they were in front of the camera during the pandemic, and they are portraits of women from Immokalee and the Everglades who are doing extraordinary work in our community. Two of those women are Lupita Vasquez Reyes and Cristina Reyes, Cristina Vasquez, I'm sorry, who are going to be joining us soon. And they're going to share their stories and what they're doing, their photos at the museum in person, or you can go to my website. And I also want to thank Love the Everglades movement for supporting this project. And I want to thank everybody who's joining us here today, and the museum in Fort Lauderdale and Tara. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisette. I am so looking forward to this conversation. I know that we have Kenneth joining us. Thank you for being here. Richard, thank you so much for being here with us. And without further ado, I would like to ask if Lupita and Cristina can join us now.
Hello. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day, you guys. Thank you for bringing us to the garden. I'm so excited that we get to join you right there in Immokalee.
Oh, yeah, in our favorite spot, the gazebo with the passion fruit.
One of the exciting things for me is that, like by being there with you in your garden, it reminds me about the history of Fort Lauderdale, how all of our urban area here on the East Coast used to be full of agriculture. I mean, that all the land was agricultural land, fishing land, kuntis, tomatoes. Part of the real reason that the train was even built was so that it could access all this amazing fruits and vegetables that was being grown here. And now you guys are the new breadbasket. So I'm excited to hear how things are for you, especially, during this very difficult time of the pandemic when so many of us have realized the basics are so important, like really, truly, and on this Earth Day. And thank you to Cristina for joining us. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys introduce yourself, and I'm gonna remove myself so we can have a better view of you guys.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you to Lisette for giving us this opportunity to share a little bit of our story, a little bit of who we are, because that's essentially what I think, remembering what Earth Day is, or remembering what it is to be, humans here on this earth, right, is really having this connection with each other and with our environment. My mom gets to be here with me, which is also symbolic of this idea of connection to mother, right? Connection to source. And I think that that's super important. But I wanted to start off with just connecting with ourselves to the moment. And so if we can kind of close our eyes and take a deep breath. So we'll close our eyes and take a deep breath. And we will begin centering ourselves and really feeling and being present in this moment, being aware of our body, of our breath, of the light that surrounds us. If you're outside, taking in all the noises and the sounds that make up our environment, where we live, where we are surviving and thriving and resisting. Heavenly Father and Creator, We ask you to bless us on this day, that we remember and that we hold consciousness about where we stand, the earth that holds our feet and holds our posture and holds our physical being. We pray for each of the areas in our earth, our water, land, our trees, our animal friends, all living and breathing and beings that are on this earth. We ask you to center us and to bring us in your presence, to hold us in a way where we can feel uplifted and lift others, where we can have consciousness above all of how we are connected, and that every decision we make, every move that we make, every interaction that we have has consequence and is meant for us, so that we may move in a way and leave a legacy for our children and honor our ancestors by remembering that if we are not good stewards, Creator, then we are not being present. Fill us with your energy, fill us with your life and your breath, so that we may continue to do the work that is just, that serves each other's highest self and highest good, but most of all, that honors everything that you give us. So if we can bring ourselves back to the moment, open our eyes, and feel joy for being able to share that moment with each other through this digital space. I wanted to have Mom here, and I'm really happy to share and be a part of the work at the community garden, which is Cultivate Abundance in Immokalee, Florida. I was born and raised here in Immokalee. I've been, I'm 42 years old, and I've been away for a while, and this is the home that I've always known, a place where I grew up as a migrant farm worker with my parents, watching them work the land and also finding their way to thrive. I was talking to Tara and Lisette, when they approached me with the project of being photographed. And I said, "Oh, Lisette, I just got back to Immokalee, and I've been working with this garden and trying to find this renewed sense of place, and energy, and connecting with the earth in a way that makes me feel just having more purpose, right, about what it is that we're doing here in Immokalee when we're advocating for farm worker rights, when we're advocating for a better quality of life, for environmental justice, for housing justice, for food sovereignty, food justice, all these things that many times make us feel less than human." And and I said, and my story is not that great, but as she continued to ask more questions, as she continued to be inspired by just the greenness of the garden and my energy in wanting to connect here with the work that I'm doing, I felt more empowered to say, you know what, there is a story here, and a garden sitting in the center of town, in the heart of where farm workers begin and end their day, is really impactful. And so Cultivate Abundance exists as an answer to food deserts, which essentially that's what Immokalee is. And these are concerns in our community where we have, the irony is that we have farm workers that are picking the nation's fruits and vegetables and putting them on your table. And yet their access to food that is, dignified and respectful of their person, and of the earth, isn't always so accessible. There is no Whole Foods here. There is no organic market. There is no utilities for water in place that, people can afford. people are having to use the most minimal of resources to be able to grow even the simplest of herb gardens or medicinal plants. And yet they do. You know, there's a whole sense of resistance here. And so I wanted to also introduce my mom and have her share a little bit about what she remembers and her connection to both land and water, and how she has seen herself and her raising of us here in Immokalee. And then we're going to share a little bit. We'll show you some of the plants that she's mentioning here in the garden and give you a small little tour. So this is my mom. Y mom, te voy a introducir y puedes hablar en inglés o en español y yo te puedo traducir, como tú quieras. Okay. Yep.
My name is Cristina Vasquez, and I came to Immokalee as, migrating, to every state, and we started working here in the fields, and so I kept working on the fields with my husband when I got married, and then we have our 3 kids, and then I saw that it was really, really hard work, to keep working in the field. So I decided to go to school and, have more time with my kids.
What do you remember when you were in Mexico? Because some of the things that you always talk to us about as we were growing up is to, be conscious of the things that we would eat, which was more vegetables, more basic, very basic food like rice and beans and different types of vegetables. And you remember eating quelites and verdolagas, but can you tell us a little bit about
cactus?
Yeah, about those moments when you were little, and what part of Mexico you're from?
I am from Guanajuato, and I remember that it was very hard for people. I was very young, like child, but I remember that they have to carry water, from far away, to drink water to drink, and people, they were washing their clothes in the rivers, and now I wonder why the people, they didn't have, like gardens with vegetables, because it was so hard, to go and carry the water. But I remember my grandpa that he was living in the edge of the river, like, almost right there, very close. So I remember that he was growing a lot of vegetables, really nice, because he was close to the river. So he had that chance,
access,
to put water in his plants, in his garden. And but I don't remember getting, from his vegetables or whatever, because that was for him to survive. He was selling those vegetables, and so. But I noticed that now that I see here that there's a lot of garden vegetables and fruits. And I say, but I didn't remember seeing in houses in Mexico, because as I say, they were having hard time, to bring the water to their houses. So
do you remember eating the quelites? Or
yes, and we were, like when you're poor and you don't have, your parents, they don't have enough money to feed the kids. So I remember that sometimes they were taking us, my mom, to look for quelites and verdolagas,
which is amaranth and purslane. These are essentially plant foods that are considered like weeds, and most people wouldn't, use them. I think now they're a little bit more hip to eat, but back then that was honestly the sustenance that my mom's family had. There was a lot of brothers and sisters. Mom was single. Sometimes the grandpa would not be there. My grandpa would not be there, and the kids would have to go and forage. All this. Now it's hip to forage and to go out and look for these things. But back then it was really a source of food and nutrition. So when all there was just tortillas and being able to cook some beans and then adding the verdolagas. But I was telling Mom, as I've learned here in the garden, as I've learned from the community, is that, Mom, that's a common story. And that's actually, when you look at the nutrition content of these type of plants, this is how you were surviving. This is how you kept strong and were able to, to have, to grow and to be able to still be healthy, fight off, ward off infections, or not get diseases, is because you were really eating things that were superfoods.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. Do you remember, your first memories with water? Like, I know in Chamacuaro, Guanajuato, where she's from, the river was something that was kind of at the edge of town, ¿verdad? Por fuerita del pueblo. But
not too far.
Do you have a story about El Rio and how you learned to swim?
Oh yeah, I learned to swim in that river, and people, they were able to build their adobes.
Yeah, their adobe homes.
From there, so I remember that we were like having a mask and the whole body. We were all covered of barro.
Oh, and clay when they would build the homes.
And it was, after that, I remember that I was feeling so good, so with so much energy.
So she had a face mask, a facial, right?
The whole body.
Oh, the whole body, a whole
like,
yeah, I think people pay really pricey for a whole mud experience, right?
Yeah, but we were having that for free. So then we were just jumping in the river and wash off all the
all the clay, all the mud.
Clay.
Yeah. Mom, when growing up, for the kids, for us, you and Dad always talked about consciousness. Don't waste water. Eat what we have, and don't eat out, and and just don't walk where you need to go, or take your bike. Don't waste. Why do you think that you have such a consciousness about that?
Because I live since, as I say, since I was little child. I learned myself, and then my mother, I was always seeing her, how she was really careful with the water. It was hard because the water, it was something very important.
So but now you had water coming from the sink, and now you had a house, and we had good things. So why were you still making us be not wasting water?
Because I'm afraid that one day we're not going to have fresh water. So what is going to happen? Life.
And I think there was a story too, a lot of the connection, and I see this in the work that I do here in the garden, is we have farm workers, that before the Coalition of Immokalee Workers, which is a worker-led organization here in town, fighting for farm worker rights and advocating for fair wages. And my mom would talk about this a lot. When they were working by contract, which is piece work, there were no water breaks. There was a time that she was thirsty, they wanted water, and the jug would be super dirty, or they would tell you to go drink where? To go get water from the ditch, right?
The pumps, and
because there was like these sulfur pumps,
but they were so stinky. As soon as we were drinking it was coming out, even from our nose, like throwing up, because it was terrible. And I got
frustrated.
Yeah, no. How do you say this word? like when I need to drink water, it's always in my mind that thinking of that water that we used to drink, in the fields.
When they were working in the fields.
Yeah, because they were taking just like maybe one or two those yellow containers, and for so many people, a bus complete of people, I don't know how many, a lot. So it was gone really soon, but they were just putting a lot of ice. And I think I got traumatized with that water because that's what it is, the word. I just,
so
they tell me all the time, Mom, you need to drink water, but it's hard for me because I don't want to think about that water. But when I drink it, I think.
But there's that consciousness, right, of like the cleanliness of our water, the purity of our water, in remembering two different types of experiences of being able to be back in our hometown or in Mexico and feeling like the river was really a source for people to have this water, this clean water, and to see it evolve where even back home we hear stories from people that still live back there, some of our extended family, where they're like a lot of agriculture, monoculture has been expanding there with people that have come in outside of the town, that have come and bought up areas and have planted monocrops in this big agriculture industry and are pumping fertilizers and ruining the river. And that's a lot of what we're seeing here with the connections that and the knowledge now that I've started growing with the Everglades and things that are happening with our waters in Florida. And so in being able to model a sustainable way of gardening and of slowing of our food, right, in this way, I think that it really helps us to create this consciousness, not only in the youth that are living here in town, but also as a reminder to the adults and our elders in our life that say, we do need to have this stewardship and we do need to be thinking of clean water. But I wanted to do Mom, go ahead.
I remember in Reynosa.
Reynosa is a border town where they ended up migrating to as they were coming closer into, what we know now as the United States.
Yeah, I remember that we were taking a shower, and the water was gone, and we were just, putting soap in our body or in our hair, and I remember it was awful that the water was gone for hours.
So this was something that you started seeing more and more as you were getting closer to the United States, right? Like this lack of, in the more, poor or economically disadvantaged areas where water restriction was a real thing, and being diverted to other wealthier areas. I don't know that we exactly have that problem here in Immokalee, but I know that when I see around me here in Immokalee, you don't see lush green grass. You don't see these yards with bright green, lush lawns. The people have their little medicinal plants or their milpa, which is our corn and beans and squash, growing right outside of their little trailers or the places that they rent. And, and then you see their jugs. And so when it's raining, they collect water. When they wash something, they'll save the water and use that to water their plants. As we at Cultivate Abundance during the pandemic, when we started pushing out our container gardens, which are just these buckets that I'll show you real quick in just a moment, that was another way that we could say, hey, you can still grow something and we can still provide you with this opportunity to have some lettuce, some cilantro, some parsley, things that are able to, some greens, mustard greens that we're able to grow in these containers, and yet, and not have this huge responsibility to find the resources, to find the water, to have to use that much water or soil. So we were able to provide those things and really meet people where they are. But real quick, we're going to do a quick video of just kind of seeing the containers that we use and that we push out in the community and that we share with the community. And then we'll go find some quelites and some amaranth. So Mom, you want to come with us? Okay. So we are going to apologize. This is our gazebo. We kind of have to climb out from under the the passion fruit. You can see it here. So we'll come around. And today was harvest day, so we actually have already harvested many of the things that I'm going to show you here. But you can see here that we use as much space as we can to just really take advantage of any space, and using the containers really helps us out. And these are some of the things that we share. But you can see here, there's some chickens out there. We're really in the center of town. And then we'll go over and we'll find some verdolagas and quelites. And my mom's coming. So verdolagas really are something that grows almost in anywhere. They can just pop up in a crack in the concrete. And I'll show you real quick how this one here, this is verdolaga. This is the purslane. Yeah. Yeah. In English, Mom, this is purslane. So, and really, I mean, it's a little dusty, but you can you can eat it just like this. Mom, try it. She's like, I've been eating that my whole life, just to wash it from the dirt. And then we'll come over real quick and see. And you can see we have a variety. We do containers, we do buckets. We have bananas, one of the best banana circles, and an avocado tree. We're going to go over here and find some quelites, the verdolagas. I mean, the amaranth. So this here is our amaranth, our quelites. And we harvested most of the tender stuff right now. You can see it already going to seed. But this would be the quelites, the amaranth. And this makes the bulk of a lot of what we harvest here, a lot of what we share. And then I'll show you real quick our maíz. This is a Guatemalan variety that we've had some success with. And you can see it just looks beautiful here. Oh, and the sprinklers are about to turn on. So anyways, we're going to walk back over to the gazebo since the sprinklers just came on. That's a yucca, Mom. Yeah, more southwestern. Oh, and then the chaya. I have to show you guys the chaya. I feel like the chaya has just changed my life. And I think there's the picture that you see at the museum is with chaya. This has connected me and my mom so much. We've been able to start a pop-up, infuse it with a lot of our food, learning so much about its Mayan origins in the Yucatan. I mean, this is like a staple cultural food in the Yucatan, and it is amazing. It is a superfood. It's considered a tree spinach. It's called chaya mansa. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to go back. And really, I mean, we're open to any questions, Tara and Lisette. And, you know, if you guys want to expand on anything we've talked about, I know we've hit a lot of different things. And I got to run here because the water. You guys are getting a full experience. And hopefully we're going to be sharing some more of the videos that we've taken with a more in-depth video that we took earlier today and tour. But I wanted to come over here real quick and say hi to Rick, and he can introduce himself real quick. And then we'll be sharing that video later on the website. But Tara and Lisette are here with our exhibition of Lisette's photos.
Hi.
So we are live if you want to say hi and who you are and why you're here in Immokalee.
Well, I'm Rick Burnett, and I'm the technical director of Cultivate Abundance and the co-founder of Cultivate Abundance. I'm proud to be working with Lupita and her mom, learning so much from them as they've been here for many decades. And as Lupita's probably mentioned, that Cultivate Abundance is addressing the ironic food insecurity here in Immokalee, a farm town which happens to have a food desert in it. Yeah. And so we're learning together.
Yep. Well, thank you, Rick, and hopefully you can catch some of the videos of that Cielo took of us doing the little tour, and hope you enjoy that because we talk a little bit more about what's here and what our approach has been.
Well, thanks for coming to our garden.
Thanks. All right, we're going to go back to the gazebo and we'll keep chatting for a little bit, enjoying this beautiful Earth Day and our opportunity to just, be immersed in the Chochoktik, which is Nahuatl for green. Whew. Okay.
It is a Mother Earth.
Our Mother Earth, as Casa says. How exciting that we get to share so much of what we're doing here and our joy of being even just under this gazebo, like it's so much more cooling to be under here. Protects us from the sun, and it's already I'll have to show you. Give me just a second. It's already producing our passion fruit. So I'm stuck. Okay. So, but Lisette and Tara, I think we've taken enough of the time. If you guys want to, ask us any questions or want us to expand on anything that maybe we rushed through.
It was so beautiful. I love your tour of the garden. Lisette, do you want to jump back on or no? She really doesn't like to be on screen, but I'm going to bring her in.
Beyond the shimmering waters, indeed.
Yes, beyond the shimmering waters. Yes.
Yeah.
I really would like to hear more from Cristina so she could share about the early days, because we have another 20 more minutes or 25 more minutes. And I would like her to share about the early days when she started being involved with the farm workers' rights movement, if she feels comfortable sharing about that.
And because I know a little bit, I'll kind of prompt her through it, because I think there's some important stories in there, especially the stories that we grew up, and that helps you understand too how bye Rick, we'll see you, how we, I guess where I'm coming from with wanting to circle back in my life to this type of work, right? Of being here in Immokalee and working essentially with plants, not as a farm worker, but working with my intention and my heart for farm workers. So, but yeah, Mom, ¿sí entendiste lo que te pidió Lisette? Hablando un poquito de ese tiempo cuando llegaste aquí y cuando fueron las primeras veces que comenzaste a hacer como justicia social, ¿no? Estar envuelta en eso. ¿Qué te inició a comenzar eso? ¿Qué te acuerdas?
Well, I remember that we were working, in the field with crew leaders. And we went to this place where they call Devil's Garden.
Devil's Garden
and
Road.
It was full of rattlesnakes. And I remember it was one in my row where we were picking peppers, but they were just weeds and no peppers.
This is the place where, right, kind of maybe como 30 millas de aquí o 20 millas.
I think more or less.
About 20 miles out, I guess almost towards Clewiston.
Yeah.
But also north of Big Cypress. But they call it Devil's Garden Road. And there was a lot of farm fields out that way. But it was known for the rattlesnakes.
Yeah, and so everybody, they were two groups, the younger group and the older group. So
of farm workers,
where we were working, and then everybody got scared. I was so, so scared because the snake was in my
on the row. Mm-hmm.
So we were saying, they were paying 25, I think 25 the bucket, but it was already more than 3 hours. And, we were young and we were good to pick, fast, but we were making just some of them $2.50 and,
$2.50.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we...
Per bucket.
No. 25 cents a bucket. So they were more than 3 hours, and we were.
Oh, you had only made about $2.50 for the day at that point.
One of them $1.50, and so we walked to the entrance of the the roads, and we
of the farm of the
Mhm. And we said that we're gonna be in a strike. We told the crew leader,
like we're not gonna work right now.
and she was very nice, you know. She said, I understand,
the crew leaders,
you know. So then the former came,
the foreman,
foreman
foreman.
from the fields, you know. And then he says that we need to start working back, you know. And we say, give us a dime more, you know, it will be 35 cents, you know, for the bucket. And he says no. And then suddenly they were no, wait a minute. We came to town to Immokalee.
You left.
Some of them I came to, and
Mhm.
looking for help, you know, with it was the Omika, the organization.
Omika.
Omika, yeah. And it
Do you remember
was
what it stands for? Omika.
for the farm workers.
So it was like a migrant organization. Before this is before the coalition started. So this was like
75, 76.
1975 or 1976.
1977.
Did you already have Mikey? My older brother, he's from 74.
Yeah, Mikey.
Okay, so he was in daycare.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this was 75. And before I was born, I was in 1978.
So we came and we went back, and it was this man that he's in heaven now, but he was checking, you know, something in Immokalee. He was going to Homestead. But then we went over there to the fields, and when we get there, it was like the army, you know, there, like you know, really bad. They were with the guns and
people in uniform, some men in uniform.
Mm-hmm. So they took us to jail, you know. All of the workers,
all of the striking workers, the workers that had come off the fields and stopped working.
And so since then, I started, you know, working with the organization that it started in Immokalee. And so it was like continuing, you know, fighting for that right, you know, for the farm workers.
And Robert Williams was one of the lawyers, I think, that helped at that time, or no? Was he with Florida Rural Legal?
Yes, he helped us, you know, and more lawyers from Miami, from Tampa, I don't know, from different parts. They were helping us. So they accused us that we were trespassing.
So then they tried to turn it around and say that they had the reason they had arrested them was because they were trespassing. So I think because some of the workers had left and then come back.
But all of them went to jail.
You know, they considered it trespassing. So again, when they came back to ask for help, and my mom was part of that group, they had come back and were met with, you know, armed, you know, whether that was, you know, police. I don't know exactly, and I don't think my mom remembers that well, but they did have weapons, and then they were all taken to jail. I think mom still has that picture, and Lisette, we may have to like dig that out to see where there's a picture I think that exists where it's like a newspaper cutting where my mom and a few others of the workers were out. Yeah, they had just been arrested, and they were getting ready to be taken
out,
taken out, or taken out of the jail.
Yes,
taken. So they were waiting. They were
the
waiting for the rest of the guys and stuff. So, but you know, that had to do with, you know, they saw the conditions that they were working in. They're like, man, we haven't gotten far because the farm, the fields, not only are we having to dig through like the weeds that were taller than them, but the fear of the snakes, of the rattlesnakes. So these conditions in these fields, you know, were like with tons of weeds to where you couldn't even get to the plant, and they weren't even paying, you know, a wage that was worth that risk. And so in that moment, there had been people there, including my mom and my dad too. Yes, and my dad, who decided, you know, like, hey, this isn't right. Give us 10 more cents, or, you know, or we're done, because this is just crazy. You know, Christina just saw a rattlesnake right in her row, and you guys are just wanting her to keep going.
It was the size of the farmer, the former farmer,
Yeah, and so because somebody killed it, right? Somebody, they had shown how big it was, but that kind of initiated Mom's beginnings of consciousness and of saying like, hey, we need to stand up and ask for help, and we're the ones that know the conditions in which we are working in, and if this happens to us who have the a little bit of that courage to stand up, can you imagine those other trabajadores, other workers who don't have that courage and who get abused? And later on in the CIW, out in those same farm fields, later on in the 90s, were they were uncovering human trafficking situations out there, horrendous cases of abuse against women and sexual harassment. And so that work and those type of conditions, from the 70s that my mom was here, really hadn't improved. There had been organizations like Omica, which were based in the Midwest, which is like Ohio. There's Valdemar Velasquez was one of the organizers, bringing down organizers here. Antonio Arenday was another one. I think at one point, Cesar Chavez had come through and maybe even had rested at our house. I think there's a little bit of a mythical story about him coming and taking a nap in one of our, and at the house that we, just down the road here, a few blocks, he was headed to Homestead. And I'm like, Mom, but we need proof so that we can say we had Cesar Chavez in our house. But, it's just that memory of my mom working in those early days.
I saved the newspaper, but it was leaking in my house, and I just saved a little piece of the picture where
so Mom usually does a good job about saving stuff like that, but we've had some damage in our home from the different storms and stuff. So, but I think one of the biggest, I always remember this one story when you guys finally did a march, and they had kind of organized this boycott, a bigger boycott.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a lot more organizers from the Midwest with Flock, and many now who are doing really well in being in agriculture. But back then, when it was contract work, piecework, when they had first arrived, everybody was marching.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember Mom, I always laugh at this story because she's like, they would say, what do we want? And all the Mexicanos and all the raza, had to say, better wages. And then some of them would joke and they say, is he saying Budweiser? And they say, no, man, but better wages. Say it right. He's like, well, it sounds like Budweiser. Oh my God, I always crack up. Like, Mom, tell us that Budweiser story again, And my older brother, who was still, he was about 3 or 4. I remember they would all call him, all the organizers that were around our house, talking politics and philosophy in those early days. They'd call my brother Whiskey. I'm not sure why they called him Whiskey. Mom, what do you know why? No, but it was this camaraderie and this idea of being able to have these conversations about, elevating our consciousness about who we are as people, who we are as human beings, our connections to our hand and the work that we're able to do. And, I think there was that the 70s and 80s were a huge time when my parents were young parents. I was born in 78, and then my younger brother was born in and then it shifted towards this like faith-based social consciousness for just farm worker justice. And then later, when I was a teenager, that's when the CIW had kind of started forming itself, doing some of its first actions. And that was about the time that my dad got sick with cancer. He had been working in the fields up until then. My mom had kind of progressed in her education, gotten her citizenship, and that torch was kind of passed down to us when my dad was sick with cancer. And, my mom they kind of fell back in the background. And I think it was mostly my younger brother and I that started getting a lot more involved. But through the years, my mom has, supported with the Coalition of Immokalee Workers and a lot of their actions and work that they've done surrounding human trafficking and sexual abuse, the radio program that they've had, all of the collaboration that they've been doing, and really leading the charge when it comes to advocating for farm workers here to get their vaccines, to get, proper masks and education regarding COVID. You know,
Both here.
and that's been some of the things that I've learned from her, is this elevation of consciousness, right? Like conciencia and action, because you can have consciousness, pero si no las pones las cosas en acción, if you don't put yourself into action, if you don't find the ways in which you can get involved, then I think that, you know, what does that consciousness do? Nothing but remain in your energy. We have to shift that. We have to put it out there.
Yeah, I remember this farmer put the gun in my forehead when we were, you know, when we were in strike in 77.
The strike of 77.
Yeah, with you, Juan.
With Juan Velasquez, who was a Chicago, he had been a kind of a political leader out there, but really organizing locally the Black and brown youth in Pilsen village, and he became a really good friend, almost like family. But mom says that during that strike, what happened? Why did the policeman put the gun in your head?
No, he was a farmer.
Oh, a farmer.
Yeah.
Where was the farmer?
We were on the sidewalk, you know, like
here in Immokalee.
Yeah.
What part of town?
It was in
this main streets out there.
Main Street. Yeah, he was in Main Street. And he came in, you know, I was there. We were there, you know, on the sidewalk, standing, you know, with the signs.
With signs.
And then he just right away put his gun and then put it back, you know.
Was he driving by?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were mad because we were on strike.
And the strike was specifically about what, Mom? ¿De qué estaban protestando?
For better conditions in the fields and
the pay.
The pay, you know, because we can even survive. We were able to pay the rent and not to eat. We survived with the
WIC. Yeah. Remember that government block of cheese for a while, and Mom says like that pretty much sustained us. And verdolagas and quelites from the you know, from anywhere out. Actually, it grows anywhere. But that was you know, and those were the conversations Mom had to have with her fellow, you know, raza here, is like, hey, you know, we can do the boycott, we can strike, let's go back to eating those quelites, let's do the, you know, let's eat, we'll share tortillas, we'll do what we need to do, you know, and but we need to demand these wages. So it was crazy for me. I grew up with these stories, and you know, all three of us did, and to be able to later on see the organization and the work of the Coalition of Immokalee Workers for me during a time when my dad was sick, no longer going to work, you know, and being able to live out kind of the stories that they had, but it was still like feeling this sadness and this anger of like, why in 1992, 93, are we still fighting for 1 penny more? Are we still fighting for better working conditions? And, you know, and just sovereignty of our bodies and of our health and of our, you know, our right to exist and work in this country in a dignified way. And I remember just having those tears, you know, during my first experience in a boycott and action that the Coalition of Immokalee Workers had in 92, 93. And just feeling that intense emotion of remembering those stories that I grew up with my parents and with, you know, the friends that they had made during those times of organizing. But when and up until now. And so when I'm out here and, you know, for all intents and purposes, it could be like, hey, you know, wouldn't you rather work in an office? Wouldn't you rather, you know, be doing something a little more professional and things? But I think for me in the place that I am in my life, this work has meaning because it is healing. It's kind of like, I've told this to Lisette, I feel like I've come full circle, you know, in understanding and really feeling what it is to not just be a worker, but in saying there is a different way and we can envision a different future. And when we're looking at issues like climate change and the crisis and the emergency that is climate, you know, disaster and climate, you know, crisis that we're having right now with our water, with our land, with our soil erosion, you know, with the food industry and the way that we think about how we feed the world, you know, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. The way we work, the way we look at workers that put those fruits and vegetables on our table, it's not sustainable. You know, I lost my father. We lost, you know, my mom lost her husband to pesticide exposure. You know, he had cancer from so many years of not having any of those rights, any of those safety protocols in place, you know, for workers, because his body is just a worker, right? Like it doesn't have this sense of self in the work. And yet you have our ancestors have connected to the land in ways much deeper than we know. And so who we are and how we exist as Black and brown and indigenous people has always, the honor has always been there, right? And even in the most what people might consider the worst kind of work, right? Like bending over, you know, having to toil in the hot sun is not worthy. But it is, you know, because you have hands that are handling your fruits and vegetables that have a whole lineage of ancestors really giving them strength and resisting and existing, you know. So thank you, Tara, again, and Lisette for allowing us to maybe share a little bit of that. And, you know, there's so many stories here in Immokalee and so many other people that you could have photographed, and you would probably hear a lot of the similar stories, you know, and that's, I think, the power and the beauty of being able to expose and put us in front of the lens in that way. Tara, you're muted. Okay, there you go.
Thank you guys so much for the amazing stories. That's such rich history that directly impacts all of us here in Florida and South Florida, really in all of the United States. You know, the story of agricultural workers is really one that you know, that has been, you know, part of this land, you know, forever, and, you know, and will be part of the future forever. And I love your vision for the future, that there is a way to do this that will provide sustainability and balance and dignity, and, you know, all of the restoration of the ecosystems that we require in order to live as humans in balance with each other and with the land. So thank you for all of that. I feel like you fed us your stories, you know, your introduction of the verdolaga and quelites and chaya, you know, gave us some new possibilities, but your story, you know, for me fed me something as well. So thank you for sharing that beautiful abundance. At this point, we do have a few viewers still live with us. If there's any questions that anyone has, please go ahead and put them into the chat box, because we did have one question from Nora Espinal, and she wanted to know when the next pop-up would be.
Right. So that was one of the things I was talking about, the chaya, and my connection. I say like discovery, but I didn't discover it, but my connection to it when I learned about chaya and its origins, and then ways that we could, you know, incorporate it. And mom and I came up with this idea. Really, it was her. She was doing something, and I said, "No, Mom, wait, that's not how I thought we were going to do it. I think you put the chaya in the masa, like to make a tamale," but she was incorporating it into the masa. And I'm probably giving away too much of her secret, which we're hoping to, she's pinching me. But we're hoping to be able to do a pop-up again soon. But really, I've been taking the time, you know, the chaya kind of was dormant for a little bit. And then at the end of February, it started blooming and coming back. And so I've kind of taken that time to kind of focus again and really think about what my relationship is with chaya, and how I want to use our pop-up as a way to also educate people about this plant, this food source is amazing superfood, but also finding innovative ways for us to be able to maybe create a way that mom and I can continue to help ourselves, right? Sustain ourselves financially, or even just to help ourselves out financially in a way that still feels like a collaboration, not only with the plant and respecting it, but with the community. So yes, Nora, the next pop-up, just stay on the page on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called La Cocinita Chaya, where we post about our experiences with Chaya, but I also post on there whenever I'm going to have the pop-up. And hopefully in this next year or two, we hope to expand so where it's not so mom and pop at, just like at a very basic level, but we can expand and grow more of our, be able to just share it better, right? Like have a little bit more support in the way that we put out the Chaya Gorditas and the Chaya Limeade and the Chaya chips and all these things that we've been creating, mom and I have been creating, including some vegan options, and many of the fillings that include the quelites, that include verdolagas, and a lot of the things that we are already growing in the garden and in our community and in our own backyard. So thank you for that question. And I'm glad you're watching, Nora. We miss you. Hopefully we can connect soon and you can meet Casa. Sorry, we call my mom Casa. That was my oldest daughter, who's 19. That was her first word. Kasha. So we would, I lived all over when I was a young mom, and we would come back to visit mom here in Immokalee all the time. And I don't know if it was me saying, ya llegamos a la casa, we're here at home now. And she just associated that word. And so now almost everybody calls my mom Casa. And she prefers it that way. She doesn't like doña or any of that. So call her Casa next time you see her and you'll be on her good side.
Porque las doñas fueron malas conmigo.
Well, thank you again so much for allowing us to visit with you there. I do want to mention that, just a few weeks ago, History Fort Lauderdale restarted its farmers market. We have a farmers and artisans market every Sunday. So you guys are, when you're ready with those Chaya products, just send me an email or direct message or something, and we'll figure out how to get you a table. So
nice.
Right now, we used to have one once a month, but right now, since everything has been closed from COVID, we just restarted it up and once a week. So I think it's like a trial basis for once a week. I don't know how many weeks. And then, so if you're interested, just let me know and we'll make space for you down here. It would be lovely. But I'm going to visit you guys too one of these days next time we get out to Immokalee. So thank you so much. What a beautiful way to spend Earth Day, out in the garden, spending time with your mom. Thank you so much, Casa, for sharing some of your life with us, because we have, like you said, we have to keep on encouraging each other to build that consciousness and then take action on it. So it's I saw your pictures on the wall in the museum and I was like, I wonder who these people are. One of them is holding a green thing and the other one's holding a star fruit. I wonder.
Yeah. No, and it is. I think that's where the power of Lisette's photography, right, and of her eye and her vision and the way she sees us and the way she connected can create this curiosity, right, and more so than curiosity, but this idea that the people behind that lens exist with their story and with and they're existing, right? Like their presence is something that, whether we know them or not, is affecting something, right? Like it exists in a certain energy and in a certain place where they obviously have a story. Yeah.
Well,
¿Verdad, Lisette? Where's Lisette?
I know. I don't know. I think her. I don't know. I don't see her here anymore. It says that she's not connected. But Holly says she loves all the foods that you've mentioned, and she says she also loves Casa. Thank you for joining us,
Hi,
Holly. And It's 5 o'clock. Oh, she also says she loves Lupita and
Yes.
but it's 5 o'clock, so I'm gonna end the broadcast here. But again, thank you so much. Thank you to Love the Everglades movement for their help in printing out the photos. Thank you to Lisette for lending your brilliance to us and allowing us to show these beautiful photos, and for you, Lupita and Christina, for bringing those photos alive and letting us know, giving us a window into, what do we need to do to be more aware of each other and the food that we're doing, the food that we're eating, and how that impacts everything, how everything is interconnected. Holly, one more.
Tara, I just wanted to say real quick that you guys met Rick, and he's our co-founder and the technical director here, and he's another person that I feel is like a white ally that really understands what it is to be an ally and to understand what it is to really let people that live in the community lead the work, right? And that whatever he brings to the table is really about this sense of building these bridges, right? And that it's a collaborative effort, that it's not just something you take, but that you're also giving, and that you're infusing, and that you're that you mentor, that you connect resources, and that you may not always have the right answers, but that if you listen and you honor the place where you're at, right, and always acknowledge that. And I think that that's really important. I don't know that I could be a part of the organization if that didn't exist, especially now at my older age and just with different things in my life. But what I would ask for ways that people can get involved or people can help is that if you have a skill, if you have knowledge about that can help improve the work and help us connect to more people, or even just helping with you're physically able to come, or you're physically able to share some of your own abundance. We harvest every Thursday, and that's also the day that we collect from our partner gardens and gardens that we have kind of done outreach to, that maybe we're just sitting there during the pandemic, that we've continued to now use and grow and harvest from for the pantry purposes. So Thursdays we harvest for pretty much the whole day until like from 8:30 to about 4 o'clock, 3:30. It's kind of flexible depending on how much we're harvesting. And then, so Thursdays we're also collecting from partner gardens, and then on Fridays, we're also taking in and then sorting it from like 10:30 till about 2:30 or 2:45, 3 o'clock, and then we are distributing in the pantry through Misión Peñel from 3:30 to 6:30 every Friday evening. And so every week, we are looking at who has this abundance, who has this little bit of extra that we can pull into and give out to the people here in Immokalee. And we're looking for things that obviously are high in nutrition, that are culturally relevant, that are local, that are local to the Florida food system here and food ecology. And so anything that you can offer in that way, that you want to collaborate and you want to learn from us, you want stories, you want to be able to know more, to feel more consciousness about your own food practices and your own food systems and your, where you live, then that is one of the ways I think that you can come out, connect with me through the website, connect with Rick, or just come out. Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lupita. Thank you, Cristina. Thank you to all the people who are watching. Also, I do have a little thingy to remind you guys to also check out our website at historyfortlauderdale.org. We are funded in part by the Broward Cultural Division and a grant from Culture Builds Florida through the state of Florida. And we have lots of other little smaller donors and partners, lots of partners, but it's lovely also to always build new partners. So thank you for bringing us, thank you to Lisette for bringing us together with Cultivate Abundance. it's been a blessing, and I hope that we can build more abundance together.
Yes, that's it. That's really what it's about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tara, and we will
Thank you.
say goodbye and wrap it up
Bye,
here.
Lisette.
And go. I think there's a few more events out here in Immokalee, which is wonderful. So we're gonna go check them out.
All right. Thank you again so much, and we'll look forward to next time.
Okay. Adios.
Adios.
Bye.